We spoke yesterday about this marathon that we face to polling day. Today, another element of the nuance that the Prime Minister is going to have to argue, particularly when it comes to this issue of climate change and emissions reduction.
Yes, day 2 of 7 months, Kieran. Looking forward to it. A lot of focus today on the Prime Minister's announced electrical vehicle strategy and how it is supposedly hypocritical in terms of Scott Morrison's attacks on Labor and Bill Shorten at the last election campaign. Well, maybe not. The 2019 Climate Solutions Plan from Scott Morrison's government said, and I quote, an electrical vehicle strategy is expected to reduce emissions by up to 10 million tonnes by 2030. This policy today, the Future Fuels and Vehicles Strategy, talks about reducing emissions by 8 million tonnes by 2030, so not as ambitious. Scott Morrison has announced today $250 million for charging stations and an aspiration of 1.7 million new electrical vehicles in Australia by 2030. There is no 50% electric vehicles target by 2030, like Bill Shorten had at the last election. And Scott Morrison also hasn't gone where Anthony Albanese went in his budget reply speech and taken fringe benefits tax and import tariffs off electric cars. The government argues FBT only affects 10% of sales, and most electric car sales are covered by free trade agreements, so don't bear a tariff anyway. Labor saying, as an example, the Nissan Leaf, with their policy, a $50,000 fleet car price could be reduced to $39,000 with a $9,000 FBT cut and $2,000 import tariff cut. The car is made in the UK. The government therefore argues the FTA, when finalised with Britain, will take that import tariff off. Now, Katie Allen is the Liberal member for Higgins. She replaced former Minister Kelly O'Dwyer and copped a 6% swing at the last election. As a result, her margin is just 3.9%, and the Greens won 22% of the vote in her seat in 2019. Ms Allen only got 6% of preferences in that seat. So she was at the PM's announcement today and made no secret of the fact that she welcomes the PM talking about electric cars.
I know my constituents will be enthusiastically embracing electric vehicles. I myself have bought an electric vehicle. We need practical solutions to do the right thing for the planet.
Well, right next to Higgins is Kooyong, Josh Frydenberg's seat, also under attack by independents, the Greens, those sort of forces. Let's have a look at the list last year of top electric vehicle ownership in Australia, where it was. I don't have it electorate by electorate, but I do have it by suburb. So first there is Melbourne in Greens' Adam Bandt's seat of Melbourne. But in there you have, in the top 10, you have Burnley and Toorak, both within Katie Allen's seat of Higgins and near the Kooyong boundary. Also in there, the marginal South Australian seat of Boothby, which Nicole Flint is exiting. This will be a close election and therefore obviously a seat-by-seat battle. Anthony Albanese is endeavouring to do what he did at the Eden-Monaro by-election with Kristy McBain, find locally popular candidates so he can take it seat by seat. Scott Morrison is endeavouring to tailor messages to different electorates, even this far out from the election. We're used to Labor having this wedge, Bill Shorten having to give different messages to Victoria and Queensland on resources at the last election. Scott Morrison has the same problem here. A different message for the Hunter yesterday than for Higgins and Kooyong today on climate change. After the last election, the federal Liberal Director Andrew Hirst told the Liberal Party room climate change was an issue and it could not be dismissed after the 2019 result. But Scott Morrison has a cleverly nuanced message on climate change he has crafted, and here the die is cast for the 7-month campaign. He says, Labor tells you what to do. We are doing something to counter climate change, but we won't tell you what to do.
Labor wants to tell everybody what to do. They love telling people what to do, what cars to drive. I think Australians have had enough of governments telling them what to do, frankly. We've just been through 2 years of governments having to tell people what to do. For Liberals, that does not come easily. It's not something we instinctively do. And it's not something I think Australians want to see more of in the future. See, I trust Australians.
An international impetus for today's announcement too, after Scott Morrison and his Minister Angus Taylor are back from the COP26 summit in Glasgow, a transport strategy due at that summit tomorrow where a target of 100% electric vehicles by 2035 is expected to be agreed to. Scott Morrison saying today that in Australia under his government, this doesn't happen overnight.
Well, I think as these new technologies come into place, and they'll happen over time, this is not, one day all petrol vehicles shut down and electric vehicles start up the next day. I mean, that's the sort of thing the Labor Party likes to talk about. I mean, this happens over time, and allowing consumers to lead this process, I think, is really important.
Well, the Labor leader, Anthony Albanese, continuing the small target strategy on this today, ruling out a Shorten style electric car target.
Well, we won't be putting a target. What we'll be doing is making electric vehicles cheaper and making it more attractive for people to take up electric vehicles.
And, of course, here is Scott Morrison from 2019 saying Labor's electrical vehicle policy would end the weekend.
And I'll tell you what, it's not going to tow your trailer, it's not going to tow your boat, it's not going to get you out to your favourite camping spot with your family. Bill Shorten wants to end the weekend when it comes to his policy on electric vehicles.